Have you ever been kicked in Man vs. Machine? Yes, the answer is yes. Unless you've never played MvM, but then again, this is the state of casual, so... Son of a fucking bitch. However, for the rest of us highly intelligent, totally not gambling addict TF2 players, getting kicked is basically a rite of passage. And you might be asking yourselves a lot of questions about it, namely, why did I get kicked? You can go with the common response of, for no reason, but it's not like your team played Russian roulette on the kick screen and flipped coins for F1 or F2. You had to have done something that made your team belligerently throw you out like a dumpster baby. That doesn't necessarily mean it was for a good reason, but come on, let's not pretend every vote kick is caused by a professional chicken tendy eater. Contrary to what the negativity bias and your YouTube recommendations might tell you, most MvM players are pretty chill. So if you're the one guy getting kicked consistently, well, you know. But that's okay, because today we're going to talk about the most common reasons I've seen as to why newer players get kicked, and how you can best avoid those situations. But first, you guys have been amazing in helping me fight the YouTube algorithm, so if you want to see more MvM content, hit the subscribe button and comment some dumb shit below to help boost this video. Number 1. Bad loadouts and/or bad upgrades. So you can actually use quite a fair bit of weapons in MvM without getting relentlessly dogpiled by high tours, but that doesn't mean that every single item is on the table. We can talk ad nauseum about meme strats and whether they're viable or not, but I think the more important thing to note is that weapons and upgrades are way less about what you are using and much more about what you aren't. Opting to go with a shotgun in place of a banner or a pistol instead of a mega evolved sentry doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in you as a player. Same goes for not buying almost essential upgrades for your class like projectile shield, explosive headshot, and dispenser range. Not being well equipped from the jump effectively tells everyone on your team that successfully attaining the most bare bones aspects of your class was too much for you to handle. So your teammates might be asking themselves, if he couldn't get this right, how much babysitting are we gonna have to do? Most people don't want to find out, so they'd rather find someone else who doesn't have that lingering question mark over their head. This is an easy fix. You can preemptively run through individual class guides on Steam, or just skim through the upgrade portions of Pride's MvM guide, which I'll link in the description below. Number 2. Picking beginner unfriendly classes. You guys ever hear about conditioning? Probably not, half of you are bald and the other half don't shower, but I mean this kind of conditioning. A behavioral process whereby a response becomes more frequent or more predictable in a given environment as a result of reinforcement. Straight from the Google. MvM has a lot of this, most notably with classes like Sniper, Spy, Pyro, and Demo Knight. I'm sorry, and it's definitely unfair to the good players of these classes who just so happen to have lower tour counts, but the reality is that the new player pool for these mercs has been jam-packed with so many buffoons, you have to do some legwork to prove that you're an exception. Is it possible the zero tour Spy won't run in and die instantly all the time? Sure. It's possible. It's also possible to win a hand of poker with a 2-7 offsuit. Yeah, we're not gambling with money, but we're gambling with time. So do your best to make sure the team doesn't want to reshuffle the deck. Metaphorically speaking. Number 3. Sucking ass at your job. Okay, now I know you might be thinking, wow, astute observation there, Wheezy. What's next, you're gonna tell me not to AFK? But hear me out on this one. The real meta of MvM isn't really class composition, it's role fulfillment. The two just so happen to mostly overlap. Things like damage dealing, both single target and AoE, medic killing, tank busting, money collecting, and ammo distributing make the mission a real struggle when even one of them isn't fulfilled properly. So make sure they are. If you're playing Engie, share the dispenser with your team instead of hogging it for yourself. If you're playing Demo, make sure you have sticky traps at the ready when the medics are about to drop. If you're playing Scout, make sure you're always on the hunt for that cash. And if you're playing Pyro, okay, you might get kicked anyways, but if you don't, there's a good chance the team will want you on tank duty, so go with that. Again, nobody's perfect, but try your best to fulfill your class's role. Number 4. Being unteachable. There's been this rather prominent idea that every single situation of a high tour talking down to a new player is a de facto example of toxicity. I can't tell you how much I disagree with this line of thinking. I get it. High tours that shit their pants over the most trivial of issues really need to eat a Snickers, but that doesn't mean that the complete opposite reaction is warranted either. I know to some of you this might sound foreign, but high tours generally want to help new players, even if it's solely for the non-altruistic reason of not wanting to wait for another player who could very easily shit the bed just as much as the one they're kicking. In my experience, the most common times where high tours let loose on their toxicity are the moments where their perfectly valid suggestions are repeatedly dismissed or flat out ignored. I'm talking about the newbies who think that offering any sort of help is elitist. The ones who close their eyes and plug their ears whenever there's even a shred of good faith criticism thrown their way. The ones that call every single person who's ever called a vote kick a tacobot wannabe. The ones whose only response to being called out is some variation of the phrase, "Fuck you, I play how I want." And if this is how you act towards your teammates, steadfast in your ignorance, not having the team's best interest at heart, you don't then get to complain that no one wants to play with you. Being a bad player is fine, even understandable given Valve's reluctance to add in-game tips or tutorials. But being defiant about it, that's a whole different story. Taking pride in knowingly making things worse for your team is almost as pathetic as taking pride in how many new players you've kicked. You don't need to be defensive about every single mistake you make. Take it on the chin, and most people won't really have an issue. Number 5. Not readying up fast enough. The easiest problems to fix are the ones that cause the most frustration when they aren't. Now, this is something that's a non-issue to anyone with a second monitor and a Twitter account, follow me by the way, but some players will make it very apparent that they want you to press F4. In a way, I kind of understand the annoyance. If one person never readies up, that's a full minute per wave being wasted, which doesn't seem too bad until you realize that one guy not pressing that one button makes the game take 20% longer. It doesn't take more than 30 seconds to upgrade, and if you need to AFK because you had Taco Bell the night before, ready up and let your team 5-man it for a bit. Unless you're on a laptop. Number 6. Pushing robots back excessively. There's a big difference between using knockback mechanics as a failsafe or to cheese certain encounters and using knockback on every single robot like they're Bill Cosby trying to give you a hug. Just to list some of the problems with overusing it, your demo sticky traps can be neutered, your soldier loses splash damage potential by needing to aim up, ditto with bullet penetration upgrades, your whole team is likely suffering damage fall off, the person using the knockback is crippling their damage for the effect, your Engie's dispenser can get destroyed, and your team's sniper will want to throw you into the sun, let alone from out of your game. Number 7. Popping Uber medics. Don't shoot the Uber medics. It's really just that simple. If the medics go below 50% HP without dying, they'll give themselves and whatever robots they're pocketing the full duration of a stock Uber. And considering most of these robots are giants with mad damage output, that's not the kind of threat you want to be making invincible. Mistakes can happen sometimes, and most people are fine with that, but if it's a consistent issue, then they might want to get you out of there. Number 8. Joining games late and being a nuisance. Some people have this join game in progress box ticked when they don't really understand what it entails. Checking this option means you can be thrown into any game, on any wave, in any situation with any team composition. And if you're not prepared to play whatever role that team might need, well, you've effectively made yourself the square peg in a group with a round hole. Your team probably won't be too thrilled with having to work around your incompetence that you've forced onto the group. It's really annoying when your team needs an engineer and someone joins mid-game, locks pyro, and then has a laundry list of reasons as to why he can't switch. If you're cool with playing anything, joining mid-game is no problem. But if you're not comfortable doing that, start from scratch so you'll have much more wiggle room in choosing what to play. Number 9. Using the gas passer. So everything on this list is traditionally seen as bad because of their negative impacts on the team's competency. Well, here's one that people think is bad for the opposite reason. You know, sometimes it dawns on me that I spent 2 weeks of my life making an 18-minute video about the ramifications of a weapon based off a fart joke, but it is very telling about how controversial it is. Some people took away from that video the idea of being upset at any overpowered weapon in a PvE game mode is stupid, and I personally disagree with that. It's okay to dislike weapons that you believe to be unhealthy for the game, but what's not okay, and where it crosses the line, is trying to enforce that belief onto your teammates and kick players for using it. This is certified douchebag behavior. Now, the vast majority of MvM players have zero issue with someone running gas, but if you're ever in the unlikely scenario where the majority of your team does not want you to use it, then I'd say bite the bullet and either re-queue or put on the detonator. I disagree with kicking people for playing optimally, but if they're the majority rule, I'd rather not poke that hornet's nest. And number 10, no communication. This is the crux of it all. The most prevalent and highest contributing factor as to why new players get kicked in MvM is bad communication. Almost no one plays MvM with the intention of wanting to kick new players. It's in everyone's best interest to deal with whatever issues are being presented in a quick and efficient manner. And every single issue on this list can be resolved with a couple of lines of text. But many players won't talk things through, and that's a big problem in a cooperative game mode. Just an acknowledgement, an indication, even just saying sorry as a way of recognizing that there was an issue. That's really all it takes for the dust to settle. Now, this can't always be achieved. Language barriers exist, and there's no way to limit your server pool based off ping like for casual, thanks Valve. And other players are free to play, meaning they can't talk in chat, thanks Valve. But if you have the ability to communicate, do it. You're not a group of minds. You have eyes, you have ears, you have a keyboard, you might have a mic, you have all the tools available to fix whatever problems you might be having. So, use them. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you think I missed anything or you disagree with any of my points, well, that's what the comments section is for, so go nuts. I also want to thank fellow TF2 YouTuber Explosive Action for aiding in the making of this video, so go give him a sub. But that's all I got, guys. Thanks again for watching the video. See ya.